Hey everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Event Icons. We are here on site at IMEX in Frankfurt, Germany. We've been on the air live for the better part of a couple days now, and we've put together kind of a special smorgasbord of the best interviews that we've had.
Puns.
Yep, well, there's smorgasbord is not a pun. It's a very international show.
It is,
We've got
so
all
much
of these
flavor.
fantastic foods all over the trade show floor and things like that. So we're very excited. So I'm Brandt Krueger, hi, and welcome to this very special edition, guys.
Will Curran from Endless Events. You guys all, I guess, know me at this point.
Alex Plaxen, Little Bird Told Media president.
And I'm Lindsay Martin-Bilbrey from Pathable Event Apps.
So it's been an exciting couple of days already,
Yeah.
and we're really excited to show you what we've seen on the show.
Yeah, so what you're going to see is some bite-sized clips of just little pieces, sound bites of our favorite interviews, the really big takeaways that we've seen, because we've had so many amazing speakers here. And so we've picked out our favorites just for you.
Absolutely. So it'll be a favorites episode. You can say it's going to be like an anthology episode of IMEX Frankfurt all together in one. Just no Black Mirror.
But
No.
the good news is about the greatest hits is you can still get CMP credit from it. So that's a full hour of content that's got the international flair and all the greatest tips and trends for things that are happening out there in the world. Free for you for 1 hour
Yay.
without the
I think we should get to it.
Yeah, I think we can just get into
All
the
right.
content. And let's start off with this first one.
Here you go.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Event Icons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions. Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share Event Icons on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is Event Icons.
We're so excited to have with us today Roger Tondur, who is the chairman and president of MCI Group, and Reggie Agarwal, who joins us as CEO of Cvent. So guys, how's it going? Have you been having fun so far?
Having a good time. This is a great conference.
Yeah.
Roger's
Very
like,
good.
no, I'm just
started
hanging out.
started with the site night party last night,
Yes.
so that was ended up very nice. So I'm ready for 3 more days.
Fabulous. Well, one of the things we wanted to have you kick us off with is something very light, frothy, mergers and acquisitions, which is always a little bit of a change, but I think change is kind of the watchword here in events industries lately. So tell us a little bit, your two companies have been making some big moves, and we hear kind of rumbles that there's more coming in the next 12 to 18 months. So what's going on both in event tech and from a venue perspective?
You want to start, Raj?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We are. Yeah. It's very clear that the business worldwide is more and more concentrated, and you say big business goes to big agencies, and now the question is, what is big?
Right.
So what is big? You know, in many countries, a big agency is perhaps an agency with 50 staff. Other places it's 100 staff. That would be big. But I think that if we look today at the type of business and the type of contracts that we win, when we work with a Fortune 500 company, we might have a staff of 50 people only working on that account.
Right.
So it's very clear that we're going to get bigger. So we'll do more acquisitions.
It's a good idea to have it, but it gives you kind of that opportunity that no matter where you are, someone from MCI Groups, that kind of level of hospitality and service standards are there to help make sure the experience works.
Yeah, it's very clear. I mean, the idea is when we go out, we look to acquire companies. So we've done 65 acquisitions over the last 30 years. That's how we got to where we are. Approximately, when you look at the growth of the company, we are close to 3,000 people today in the company. About 50% has been through what we call internal growth,
Right.
and 50% of the growth has come through acquisitions.
Right.
And so when we acquire people, I think we have done, if we're at the end of our geographical expansion, because we are everywhere,
Right.
in 80 cities in 35 or I think 36 countries today. So the geographical expansion has finished, but now we are developing the size of the business in the different countries.
Fantastic. And then how about from an event tech perspective?
Well, I agree with a lot what Roger was saying. Is the first thing is that geographical expansion is a critical part of our growing. If I had to say what are the 3 reasons that we do acquisitions, one and the foremost is just to round out our platform.
Right.
To make our platform more engaging for our customers and their customers. So that's kind of the primary driver is to round it out. The second thing is it gets us global. We're doing, to get different geographic distribution. And then the third reason we do it is sometimes to get customers.
Right.
Some of the companies we bought, they've had good customers, and we can kind of, there's a term of art in the software industry called land and expand.
Right.
And what that means, you get into the customer, and then you can, for us, we have a full platform, so they might be using part of it for somebody else, and we can expand and certainly grow our business. So acquisitions is a critical part of really what we think is to satisfy our customers. We've been primarily organically grown. Probably about 85% of our growth has been organic and about 10 to 15% inorganic or acquisitions, but we're getting more aggressive in acquisitions. Roger's teaching us the way. With 65, we've only done about 8 or 9, but we're going to continue to expand quite a bit.
That's great. So one of the things that the final piece, because I know we don't have much time, but from an event professional perspective, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty because we don't know what's coming. So if you had to leave one thought for our audience watching at home and then for joining us on the podcast, what's the one thing you hope they take away saying, as Cvent moves into it, as MCI Group moves into the future, we want you to know this is why we're doing it? You said a lot about customer satisfaction, but is that really the goal or the takeaway?
I mean, it's difficult to give one thought, but the one thought is that adaptation to the changes in the industry is the business, and the way we make money is not the same anymore today than it was yesterday.
Right.
And it's completely different than what it was 10 years ago or what it was 20 years ago. So, and we don't know what the future holds for us. So we spend a lot of time today on what is generally called the 4th industrial revolution, and artificial intelligence, robotics, and how do we adapt? So it's very interesting to sit here with Reggie and the way his company has moved forward. So I would say that is the one thought. Spend your time about where the industry is going tomorrow, and don't think you're going to keep on doing it the same. Absolutely. Because I think it used to be, if you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. Exactly. Right? But that's not true anymore. We will have to change.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Roger said. I mean, for us in event technology, we can't be everywhere. So for us in acquiring, there's a lot of neat technology that's out there, or in different segments, whether it's geographical segments or it's a different customer segment. But more importantly, maybe they've built a product that we think makes a lot of sense for our customers. So I think the number one driver of acquisitions really is at the end, as both of us I know believe, is it's all about what's best for our customer. What's best for your customer always ends up coming back and growing the business. And so for us, that's what we think. That's kind of our obligation to our customers, because we don't have technology for everything. And even though we have about 1,500 engineers that are developing a lot of different R&D, and we spend well over $100 million a year on R&D and technology. We can't be everywhere. So it's important to see some of these companies that can add more value to our customers. And that's really our primary driver for why we acquire. And it makes us more aware of how the industry is moving, which has been it's been interesting to talking to a lot of startups. We spend a lot of our time talking to them and partnering with them, maybe acquiring them. Maybe they end up being competitors. But in any way, it's great for the ecosystem and great for the customers to have that.
All right, well, we know it's so busy here, so thank you for taking the time today, gentlemen. We look forward to seeing the great things your companies are doing, and as always, we appreciate having you join us for Event Icons.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Lindsay again. We're so excited to be joining us from live here at IMEX. I am thrilled to have Sharon Fisher, who is an idea sparker out of Orlando, Florida, and she did some really great sessions on playing with purpose, but is going to be joining us today to talk about gamification, but not gamification from a technology standpoint, rather thinking about gamification as a strategy. So one of the things we were talking about before we came on camera, Sharon, was the idea of growing down. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, I sure can. And what I was sharing is that it's my favorite thing in my job because all we really do is we play, but we do strategic play. And so we come up with crazy, wild, wacky ideas, fun things for our clients to do. And my whole goal is to get people to grow down. Because if you think about it, back when you were a kid, how did you learn? Everything you learned
was a game.
Playing, right?
Yeah.
You did some kind of a game, or you were out digging in the sand, or you were being pushed around the playground and you were learning how to stand up for yourself and getting a voice. Everything you did, you learned through play. And then we get to school and we very quickly learn that play isn't the way we're going to learn anymore, and that there's very strict rules, and that there's one answer to every single question, and the correct answer is the one in the back of the teacher's book, not necessarily the one you come up with. And we're very, very quickly taught how not to be creative and how not to use those childlike, not childish, but childlike skills that actually help us learn and help us be and help us share and be creative and be innovative and all those things. So we forget how to do all of that. It gets taught out of us. And so as adults, we need to be reminded it's okay to grow down, and it's okay to be a little bit more childlike when we're coming up with certain, when we're working on certain projects or doing certain things.
So when you're thinking about designing play for events and hospitality, what does that kind of look like? Because I know one of the biggest things that we always have clients coming to us going, well, we just need it because my CEO wants it. And we go, but why do you want gamification? Well, I don't know. We just need it. So where do you even get started when you think about it?
The big divide is,
right?
is the curse of our industry, right? It's so hard when as planners, we don't always understand what the purpose of something is. And so that's how we always try to get started, is to understand what is your purpose? Why are you having this meeting or this event? What are your goals? What are the results you expect to achieve? How do you want people to walk away feeling about what they learned? And then what do you want them to do when they get out of here? So if we can understand those things, then we can say, okay, now here's some playful strategies or engagement strategies that'll work for you. But if you don't know the purpose, it's very difficult to create anything that's relevant or really good for the audience. If you just throw in some random games or some random activities, people are going, why did we do that? What sense did that make? And if you haven't been retrained yet on how to
retraining. I love that. Like, we're going to take you, we're going to recondition you, but instead of that way, we're going to make you watch the Care Bears.
Exactly. So if you haven't, been re-energized in that way before, then you're kind of going, well, that was stupid. Why did we do that? Or you're rolling your eyes going, what are we doing now? Or why are we doing that kind of thing? So we're really, really big believers in play, but only if it comes with strategy and purpose, is that there's a reason for doing it. And play doesn't work everywhere, but it works a lot of places. You need to know where it works and where it doesn't, and when you should use it.
So thinking about that from a strategic standpoint, we always say measurement matters, right? And so it sounds like there are some instances where you can build in that measurement strategy with the engagement, and then sometimes measurement's not the reason, right? So where have you seen measurement being most successful? So if I want to use play as a strategy for a business case, let's say I need to drive traffic to my trade show floor, or I'm trying to make sure my breakouts, people aren't falling asleep. It could be a thing. It has been a thing. So what would you kind of recommend to planners as they're thinking through those two scenarios?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different results that you can help to drive using play or games or even just interaction in some way, shape, or form through your meeting. And it's understanding which types of things work for what you're trying to accomplish. And that all comes back to purpose,
Right.
you know. So
Right.
if you don't know the purpose, then just I would say skip it, but if just do
Or hire
something.
you. I mean, that works
Or
too.
hire us, that works too. But but even we can't help you if we don't know what your purpose is. I
Exactly.
mean, we can do very professional, cool events, but if it doesn't get you where you want to be, did
Yeah.
you just waste your money? And I
Exactly.
hate having people waste money, because
Yeah.
there's very strategic things you can do with it if you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
So like some examples, we have some community give back events that are all based around interaction and people doing things and working together to accomplish some kind of a goal that results in a give back program. So that's not necessarily measurable from a numbers perspective. It's measurable a little bit from a heart perspective.
Right.
And did we feel like we did something good? Did it create those emotional elements that we wanted from our meeting to make people feel proud to work at our organization, or those kinds of things? But they're not numbers driven. And then on the flip side, if you're looking for numbers, say you're running a national sales meeting and you're trying to make sure that everybody walks out the door and knows exactly what they need to know when they walk out the door, then you're going to do a different kind of a game. It's going to be something that it's more rules based, it's more focused in design, and it's more it's scored.
driven.
There's more outcomes from it. So you're measuring it in some way, shape, or form how you got there. And to give you an example of that, we did an event with an eye care company who was launching a new contact lens. And basically they said, we're going to do this national sales meeting. We're bringing 400 people. At the end, we need to know they know everything about our strategy for going to market and everything about this product. And we've got 2 days to do it in. And so we said, well, it's silly to sit in meetings for 2 days and just vomit information onto people and tell them it's exhausting. And this was even before cell phones. But people tune out. They just check out.
Yeah.
It's overload, and your brain can't absorb that much information in that kind of
Yeah.
time. So what we decided to do was kind of a flipped learning process where we condensed the information that they needed to know. So the product specs and the competitive analysis and the go-to-market piece into short microbursts of learning and put that online, and then they got points and scored points for having completed reading each of those. Then when they got to the meeting, it was all hands-on. So we had created 4 interactive games that tested what they knew and what they didn't know. So it was all about understanding, okay, here's the things they need to know. When they get to the meeting, whatever pieces they don't know, that's what we're going to talk about. We're not going to just spit information on them. We're going to talk about the things that didn't click, that didn't make sense, that there's questions about, or they don't understand. And so we did the 4 games and did that, and each of the 4 areas was divided in half. So it was half interactive game, and then it was half figuring it out. The cool thing about it was on the marketing piece, every single one of the groups had questions about the strategy for their go-to-market piece. They ended up changing their marketing plan before they went.
That's
So
so
it's
smart.
cool. So it's
Yeah.
smart because what happened is if they had not done that, they would have just got it downloaded to them. They wouldn't have had time to think about it, read it, digest,
Yeah.
reflect, play with it, regurgitate it to themselves, whatever, and they would have just gone to market with a faulty plan. So it worked out really well. So you can uncover things that are wrong if you're having conversations.
Right.
You can't do that if you're vomiting information. So
Yeah. Oh man, now I want to go back and see what that design looked like. Are they still using it? Nerd. So we always try to leave one great tip. So our audience is all event professionals in different worlds of corporations, associations, the government. If you had to leave one tip for our event profs, what would it be?
It would have to be around risk. So a lot of people perceive that playing games, doing interaction, Doing any kind of participatory things is really risky. I'm working with a bunch of doctors. They'll never do it.
Right.
You know, I hear that all the time. My audience is too conservative. They'll never do it. The reality is we're all kids, and we all played when we were kids. We played in different ways, though, and we had different things that we loved. Your favorite board game's probably not my favorite
true,
board game.
true.
You know, we
Yeah.
probably would choose different things. So, so what I would say is, understand your audience, know your audience, know what you want to achieve, and go for it, and start small. So you don't have to jump in and like gamify your whole entire meeting.
Right.
Take one session at your meeting and put some gamification twists in there, whether it's technology based or not, but integrate some interactive things. Start small and then go for it, and then you'll have great success. Some of them might not, and then you figure
And
out,
that's
I
okay,
I
too.
missed this about my audience, and now I know what to do and how to do it. So
All right.
that'd
Well,
be
this
my
was
big tip.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us today. I almost want to get your card so we can talk more later. We are so
I
much
have
more.
one.
Thanks again. Well, we'll look forward to speaking to you more and enjoying IMEX.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
And we are back. So I'm very excited to have my friend Fiona Pelham as our next guest. And we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to your heart. You are one of the experts in the industry on this topic, and we are talking about sustainability. So tell us a little bit. This is your first time on Event Icons. Tell us a little bit
It is.
about your background, because for those who don't know, I mean, you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, so for about 15 years, I have been running a not-for-profit, Positive Impact, whose vision is to create a sustainable event industry. And we use collaboration and education to have that happen. In the last 3 years, Positive Impact Events has really focused on partnerships that will make a difference to our industry. So we have over 5 partnerships, memorandum of understandings, affiliates. They're all named different things with different United Nations bodies.
Okay.
And that's really opening the door to the global event industry having a seat around the table to talk about what we do and why it's important.
And I think that's important because we talk about, you know, right now I'm a meetings mean business ambassador, and I think as much as we focus on the importance of making sure that the entire world understands why our industry is important, I think it's also important that we understand the sustainability that we as an industry bring to the table.
Absolutely. So the IPCC report came out in November, and that's a report which all global governments and businesses read. And one of the recommendations for keeping our carbon emissions below the 1.5 degrees C, one of the recommendations was to travel less and use technology more for meetings.
Yeah.
It is vital that we have a seat around the table to say, you know what, when we're face to face, we collaborate, we innovate, we exchange ideas, and
Right.
that's how we'll create a world to work for everybody.
Right, and I think that that's important also to recognize, because when we meet face to face, we can have these discussions about how do we bring sustainability, because what some people don't realize is the events industry, we touch all these different areas and businesses and industries. So being able to bring sustainability to those events and show them what we can do as a face-to-face meeting gives them ideas for what they can bring to their industry.
Well, we have a great big opportunity right now. 2016, the Sustainable Development Goals came from the United Nations. They've been adopted obviously by governments, but also by businesses around the world. So these goals are now the language of business.
Right.
These goals go from how do we end food poverty to how do we bring around gender equality? How do we create a peaceful world? How do we have responsible consumption and production? Now, for each of those goals to be met, people will have to meet
Right.
to collaborate, to exchange ideas, and that's what our industry does.
Right.
So we have a story to tell alongside each of those goals. So this is our magic opportunity to raise the profile of what we do by bringing people together face to face.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're working with a lot of different associations in the industry. Are you finding that you're getting the buy-in from them?
You know, it's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
So Positive Impact, we are a neutral not-for-profit, which means that we're not an association. We go out and we look for funding from different partners, and we use that funding to create tools and education to make change. I think sometimes in our industry, we get very insular looking, and we look at which association is doing what. Just being within Europe, we've got the Events Industry Council, we've got the Joint Meetings Industry Council. Now, when you go back to that big high-level strategic piece, when we're talking about September the 24th and having a plan in place with global governments and global businesses that represents the event industry, those businesses and governments aren't going to care if it's come from one association or another, let alone the sport world and the culture world that is involved in events. So the role that Positive Impact plays is bringing those people around the table. And to be honest, sometimes it's uncomfortable because people don't necessarily want to have to talk about this or think about this, or it doesn't always fit with the conversation of...
It's not a fun topic.
Not always, not always, not always. Sometimes it's personally hard because I'm so aware of this topic. I did a webinar on Global Meeting Industry Day, and I had 4 young people on it, aged from 7 to 14. And they'd been involved in the climate change protests around the world. And the 14-year-old said, I'm never going to fly for business because that would mean that my job was more important than the planet. And what can be more important than the planet?
That's so interesting.
And then last night I was speaking to a head of a massive association who said, oh, Fiona, young people always protest. By the time they get into their job, they'll forget that and they'll get on a plane. And I'm not so sure. And it's my job and the team at Positive Impact and our 300 ambassadors who volunteer around the world to really speak up and say, we can't presume that everyone understands the value of face-to-face meetings.
No, not at all. And I think unless we as an industry really put our foot forward and say this is something that is important to us, I think we do run that risk of people not understanding the give and take.
Yeah.
You know.
And I would say, I was just speaking to some of your team before this interview started. I think there's probably lots of young people joining our industry now who are wondering how they put that foot forward. Maybe their boss, maybe their CEO is saying, don't focus on this. You know, it'll be fine. People will understand face to face. And really, if it's not us putting that foot forward, then who is it? And that's pretty much what I tell myself every day. I mean, yes. And oftentimes I do get asked, who are you to be bringing these people around the table? And who am I? I'm just passionate about sustainability and the future of our industry and the planet. And that's enough to take action. So
now, do you work with any universities? Because I have a master's degree in event and meeting management, and I can't recall that during my 2-year program that we talked about sustainability. So are we working with and every day it seems like another new, continuing education university major pops up. So are we talking to these universities to make sure that these young people who are investing and deciding they didn't just fall into this industry, this is an industry they want to be part of, that they understand from the get-go that this is something that's important?
That's a wonderful question, and there's 2 things I'll say about that. Firstly, with Positive Impact, we also reach out to the sustainability professionals, and that includes the young people entering the industry. So they might not be in events, but they're focused on sustainability, and we try and tell them about events. But then I'm glad you asked me about the universities, because just this year we launched a wonderful collaboration with Leeds Beckett University, and our goal is to grow this to at least 10 universities over the next year. And we had students be given the opportunity to be really vocal about what they think around sustainability. We let them take over some of our social media, not always with amazing consequences, and often with fantastic, unexpected consequences. But you know, they're a voice of our future. So yes, we're looking for more and more university partners to replicate that. And the academic side, this is now part of what they're taught. Yes, yeah.
That's great, because I think, let me rephrase this. What do you find is your biggest challenge in getting people to buy into sustainability? Is it a generational thing?
The biggest challenge is the same as any other industry. So when I speak to my peers, the change makers in different industries, we all have the same challenge. And it's people that have been in their job for a long time. Maybe they're going to retire in about 10 years and they're used to things being how things are. And this is a big change to make. And it's quick. You know, I keep saying this date, September the 24th. That's when the UN Sustainability Summit is. That's when heads of government and industry will have their plans in. Now, to turn something around from now till September the 24th.
Not a lot of time.
No. And in the traditional world of big business, there's not enough time. So that is where people who haven't grown up with that entrepreneurial experience, who haven't grown up with that passion and clarity for sustainability, will kind of be saying, oh, let's just push
Pump
this
the
on the back burner.
Yeah.
But I can tell you there's some clear things that are going to be happening in our industry around sustainability in the next year. UNICEF are going to be launching guidelines around human rights when planning an event. The UNFCCC will be looking at carbon measurement for events, as will a lot of like local cities. UN Environment has already issued 5 key environmental focuses that the tourism sector should look at for events. And Positive Impact worked with the Association of British Professional Conference Organisers to translate that into event language.
Great.
So there's going to be more and more of this movement happening, and we've got to move quickly and make the most of it.
Now, what can event planners and event professionals, what can they do to bring this and make sure that it's important to their businesses that this is something that's addressed? Because we were in Salt Lake City last year, and that venue has done some amazing things for sustainability. And so in some ways, you know, picking a certain destination based on what they've done for sustainability, it makes an impact when you start realizing that you're losing business because you haven't done the investment.
Yes.
Right. So as event professionals, what can we do?
So first of all, I'm going to start with a shameless plug, and I'm going to say become a Positive Impact Ambassador. 4 times a year, we send out a PowerPoint that will help event professionals speak about sustainability. So that's just a basic, no barriers of entry that will just help you out. Yeah. Secondly, to pick up on your destinations point, I do think the destinations have a leadership role, and I think it makes sense. They can market their destinations through it. And we saw a wonderful example with Monterey County Convention and Visitors Bureau this year. They put their marketing money behind a campaign to address the role of plastics in the event industry. There is an app that's available. There's a free toolkit for event professionals to sit down when they're planning their event and say, where do we think plastic's going to come up? One of the challenges we have in the industry is wanting this checklist, wanting this, okay, no plastic bottles.
Easy, right?
Yes, we want it to be easy. And we want someone to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would advise us all to do is get used to this mentality of understanding what are our own challenges for our own event, and taking that time during the event planning stage to identify where are we creating plastic waste or food waste, or what are the sustainability challenges and opportunities for us with our specific event? Because we are very time poor, but a checklist for a small 10-person event in South Africa,
not the same.
No, not the same as a big sport event in North America. Right. So this is our opportunity as an industry to be creative, to collaborate with local NGOs that can help us, to really communicate the legacy of meeting face to face.
Now, I've seen some really interesting things that you wouldn't even think about, because I'm glad you bring up the creativity.
Yes.
At MPI WEC was in Indianapolis, and they had these giant, banners and things.
Yes.
So tell a little bit about what they did with those.
Oh, the banner story is wonderful.
It's a great story.
So, because I'm known for sustainability, a few people said, hey, there's big banners. Fiona, can we get them made into bags? Well, the team at Visit Indy were already on the case. And these banners were made into bags, and they sold out incredibly quickly.
So fast.
And that is the business case for every event, to look at what is our waste and think of the circular economy piece. Yeah. How can our waste become another product. Now, with circular economy, it should be using materials that can go back into the ground. And part of the project I mentioned, Monterey County and Convention Visitors Bureau, is to work with a company called MBDC, who are behind the Cradle to Cradle initiative, and they're going to give us 2 ways to remove plastic from the industry using this Cradle to Cradle material. So lanyards maybe that could be composted or put out on the grass and just dissolve. But I think we have an opportunity, like you say, to be creative.
Yeah. What is one of the most surprising, unsustainable things that people don't think about when it comes to events and meetings?
The thing that gets me is that it's so obvious. It's water, and in places where you can drink the tap water, the amount of bottled water that is always on display. And I've seen speakers at a sustainability event, and the audience have said, we can't trust what you're saying because you have a bottle of tap water in front of you or a plastic bottle. Now that has nothing to do with the speaker. The speaker didn't ask for that to be there.
It was there,
but the event organizer did. So that's one of the personal things that I notice.
Yeah, well, I think that's also something. This is my first time in Europe, and so one of the things that I noticed instantly when I got here was I haven't seen a plastic bottle anywhere. They're all glass.
Yeah.
And I overheard someone asking the hotel if they had a plastic bottle of water. They're like, no, everything's glass because we're trying to get rid of plastic waste.
And I loved one of the last social media pieces I saw from IMEX on the way here, which was saying to bring your own water bottle so that you can refill that. And that is just an obvious win-win. Water stations everywhere at events. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. So I think, with the ambassador program and everything that's coming up, where can people go for more information?
Well, definitely the Positive Impact website, www.positiveimpactevents.com. That will give you all sorts of information on how to get involved. I would also suggest following up with your own association. We all belong to different associations, but a lot of associations are doing different things. And follow up with your own internal business. So if you are an event organizer within a corporate company, there will be a sustainability director, and they will be doing a sustainability annual report.
Right.
Their report will not cover the scope of your events, but if you build a relationship with them, it could do. And it will in the future, so it's good to build that relationship now. Yeah. If you're a member of the event industry supply chain, this is now part of your marketing message. So talk to your marketing team about how you can spend your marketing budget on getting involved in campaigns that make a difference. The big thing that I want to keep pointing everybody to is this deadline we have of the 24th of September. Yeah. And the Positive Impact team are looking to collaborate with all the industry associations across sport, business, culture, and all the different business partnerships so that we have a commitment in and a seat around the table that is healthy for the future of our industry.
So for anyone who is a member of an industry association, what can we do as members to kind of put some pressure on our organizations that we're members of?
Yeah, ask them, are they getting involved with the acceleration commitment that's going into the United Nations? Ask them, have they got education around sustainability? Yeah. Ask them to report back on their annual meeting and how they implemented sustainability. Ask them, can they have roundtables? Sight is an example of an association that did something really interesting last year. They put funding behind the creation of materials to help their members. So we work with them to create a roadmap, and that means that any of their members can just gather their team, their colleagues in a room, and identify what their sustainability issues are.
That's great.
I do also think we have to go beyond our associations. This is for all of us to take action on now, and our time is limited. I'm like the canary in the coal mine. We've got to move, people. We've got to move quick.
We're running out of time.
Yes, we really are. If there is no acceleration commitment, and an acceleration commitment is just a plan with targets, if that isn't in with the UN on the 24th of September, we're not sitting around the table talking about the power of events.
No.
We're going to be waiting for people to come to us and say, I've got to cut my carbon, you need to do this. I just led a sustainability policy roundtable within the IMEX event this morning, and we were discussing about policy for food waste, plastic waste, and carbon emissions. And there is policy that will help us. There could be more policy and there could be less in certain areas. But it's just key for us, the event professionals, to be having those conversations and be involved in shaping that rather than being shaped by it.
Right. Do you see any potential penalties or things in the future where if you're not doing these guidelines and not following through with this for your event, that you could be penalized?
The most obvious one is carbon taxes. And this conversation has been around now for a while, and it's coming back because we've got 12 years to address our temperatures on the planet. So at an extreme, carbon taxes would be each individual person giving a certain amount of carbon credits to use. Now, can you imagine, Alex, if you had a certain amount of credits and I said to you, hey, do you want to use those to fly to WEC MPI?
Yeah.
Or do you want to use them on your holiday? I'm not going to ask you what you would say, but that's the potential future, worst case scenario for our industry. And there's the opportunity for us to be sitting around the table with the global businesses saying, let's remind you the value of face-to-face. Let's remind you, if you prioritize the use of carbon for flying, this is the outputs that will happen. So, for example, IMEX is a wonderful example. How many meetings is everyone having at this one event?
Yeah.
Probably a lot, rather than individual travel. So,
And that makes sense, to bring everyone together rather than having a bunch of smaller meetings. But I think that's interesting. And I think, anytime we talk about a topic that's difficult or that is a challenge, I think bringing it back to, no, there's money involved here.
Absolutely. The economic conversation is key. So I spend half of my time over with the sustainability people and the UN and the governments talking about the value of face-to-face and how that results in business. And then the other half of my time over within the event industry, where I'm saying, us being sustainable, us having a voice around the table will ensure that our economic impact is not negatively affected in the future. The world all boils down to economics. And there's a business case here. Our future event attendees want us to do this. Our global government and business policy, global businesses are all aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals. They want this to be done. So if we want more business and to market ourselves better, this is the way to do it.
And I think that's the biggest thing is, if you're trying to get buy-in from your bosses and from your organization, bring them money. Their ears are going to perk up and they're going to, what?
Yeah, we've done a couple of webinars on this as well. So we did one for Global Meeting Industry Day, which might be worth listening to, around the business case for this. And it's sometimes so obvious to me because I spend my life in this area. Again, canary in the coal mine. Hey, we've got to do this to survive. So,
but is there any last tip that you want to give our audience about what they could be doing?
Yeah, I would just say speak up for this. There are so many event professionals that are passionate about this, and I would say speak up and be open for collaboration. It is not always easy to speak up. I know that. I find that personally to myself, and that's after years of doing it. But it's going to take each of us. And if not us standing up, then who?
Right. Well, thank you so much, Fiona, for joining us. I think there were so many amazing takeaways. Good. And we were so glad to finally have you on the show and be on your home, your turf in Europe.
My European turf.
So it's great to have you, and thanks again.
Thank you, Alex.
We will be back. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more guests. Thanks so much.
Hello, we're back here at IMEX Live, and we're so excited to have Andy Sharp with Song Division here today. And I was just telling him that last week I was at the Experiential Marketing Summit, and I said they had the best karaoke booth, and it seemed to be partnered by Song Division, and he said it was...
It was not. Hi, Lindsay.
Oh, hi.
She did ask me if I was about to sing for everyone, and
John Mayer cover band, guys. It's going to be great.
I'm not a singer. We have amazing singers, but it's not me. We had at EMS in Las Vegas, we were doing Insta hits, and an Insta hit, which we're also doing in the taxi stand for IMEX. So we're IMEX's music partner. We're doing all the entertainment for the gala dinner tomorrow night, which is a full band with amazing musicians. Rue, who's backup singer for Florence and the Machine, so that's a full band experience. But then we do, on the smaller end of things, we do Insta hits where you have one or two musicians where they will. It's, I guess, instead of a photo booth. So if they'll ask you 4 or 5 questions. Who are you? Who do you work with? Why are you here? What, and we do it for brands basically. And then the musician will write you a song in 3 minutes. So it's an insta hit.
That's very cool. Well, there was a guy with a tambourine, and everybody wanted to be with the guy with the tambourine, and we couldn't tell. So it was one of those things, especially, as you would expect at an experiential marketing event. Very big, very loud, but it was nice to come to this show and watch the contrast. We were at the Edu Monday happy hour last night, and there was just a guy in the corner with a guitar with the music at the perfect level for conversation, being able just to bring the room together through song.
He was great. That was Luke Higgins. He was the John Mayery guy. He has a beautiful voice. He just got off tour with, he's Kylie Minogue's guitar player.
Nice.
So he was just playing at lunch as well.
Okay.
And then all the musicians come together and they're the band for tomorrow night.
Very nice.
But yeah.
Well, let's back it up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what is Song Division and why won't they let you sing?
Song Division won't let me sing because they've heard me sing. So I started the company in 2003, and I have a background as a musician, as a songwriter and a guitar player and keyboard player, but was never a singer. I will sing demos for if I'm writing a song and I get some amazing singers to come and sing the actual song for me. But I started the company when I was asked I was originally asked to do songwriting workshops with Indigenous teenagers in Australia for a festival where I'd get about 15 teenagers for an hour. And we would write a song, and they would have varying levels of music. Sometimes no musical experience. Sometimes I'd play a bit of guitar, and I would just ask one of the kids if he knew a few chords on the guitar, and then we'd ask the rest of the group what type of song do you want to write, and they'd say we want to write a reggae song with a gangster rap breakdown because that's what they liked. And then I'd just get the kids to write poems basically, and then we'd create a song together. And then I was asked straight after that by a friend who runs a telco in Australia. I said, can you do that with my sales team? And I was like, I am not a team building guy. I'd spent 10 years playing in a signed band. I signed to ACDC's label over in the UK during Britpop. And then when that band broke up, I ended up came back to Australia and worked for IBM for 10 years. So I have that's the business is sort of formed on this sort of music and corporate. That's why we're in this world.
Right.
But so my friend asked me to do a team building event, and I was like, I'm not really a song and dance guy. I'm not a singer. I'm not a campfire pull out the guitar guy.
You like to bring them together, but not to make a move and shake.
No, exactly. But I said I'll take them into a recording studio and I'll bring in some of my session friends.
Right.
And some beer. And, we wrote a song about their sales targets, and I couldn't get them out of the studio after that. They were all they were in a sort of teenagers in a garage band, delusional. We're going to be famous, and so that's where the business started from there in 2003.
Interesting.
And so now we've worked in 30 countries, and we do about 400 events a year, and we have teams across Australia, Asia, UK, and the Americas. About to launch in South Africa. And we do everything we basically get brought in for corporate events, whether it's a general session for 10,000 people or a VIP experience strategy session for 20 people. We'll take people into a famous recording studio, or we'll get, like I said, 10,000 people to write a song in between keynote speakers at a general session. So we get asked to design musical experiences that unite people around their purpose using music.
Yeah. So what would you say is probably the hardest thing? Because I know we'd had you on Event Icons before, way back when we started.
You had Sam.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, the title of the session, I think, was taking your events to the next level. And there's been a lot of changes in the way that everyone says we don't create events now, we create experiences. And I think music's really at the core of that, but it's so tough to get right. because it's always too loud or seems forced. So what would be the one tip you'd pass along to event professionals as they're thinking about creating these experiences using a company like yours or just using music?
Yeah, I mean, well, if they're just using music, I mean, a tip, you know, when you're saying it's too loud or is it the wrong sort of music, is, you know, find people on your team or with the client that are in touch with who the employees are. And I always sort of think go for someone who's the middle of the demographic. So if you've got a workforce that ranges from, you know, 20 to 60, find a 35-year-old who likes their music, so they know their Rolling Stones and Doors and whatever, but they also know who Drake is and whatever. And you know, everyone loves music. You just don't want to go into a situation and be playing all dubstep to the wrong audience. So I think trying to find people who are, you know, and I think people like good music. I mean, one of the things that we do when we're curating playlists for companies is, or even doing sort of maybe background music for a gala dinner with a band, we'll get the band to play classic rock songs, so like, or even like Metallica or Nirvana, but they'll play it in a salsa rhythm.
Metallica and a salsa.
Yeah, which is sort of gets done in various, you know, I think very recently was sort of popular in the US anyway, where they'll do that sort of thing, sort of famous songs in a like a 1940s sort of jazz style. But it's basically, I mean, you can go to any corporate event and they're going to play the latest top 40, whether it's Justin Timberlake or, you know, I remember there was a period where for the same Black Eyed Peas song was played at every general session and to play every speaker on stage. And so that's, you know, I think you've just got to be a bit more adventurous than that. I think people, you got to don't dumb it down for people. But know your audience, know what the demographic is, and then just be a bit interesting with it. You know, play something that they're not necessarily hearing every day, because whatever they're hearing on the top 40, they're going to hear on every sports promo reel, and they're hearing it all the time. And so it's not special for your event. So I mean, so we get brought in to get the audience they create their own music. So that, and you know, music is tied to memories. So in a year's time, when someone says, what did you remember about that event, that we know that they remember the song that they wrote with us, but they don't necessarily remember what the keynote speaker was talking about. Exactly. So we're brought in because people are spending a lot of money on getting everyone together, and then music, you know, releases serotonin and releases endorphins that make people social, and then when they're writing a song, it helps them sort of retain the content. But I think it goes to the same as if they're going to pick their own music. Like pick music that's a little bit more interesting, that people will remember. Yeah.
All right. What's the one experience that Song Division's doing here at IMEX that we shouldn't be missing if we're here in Frankfurt? Well, if you are lucky enough to be invited to the gala dinner or rich enough to get a ticket, to buy a ticket, I mean, you're going to see an amazing, you know, they're the best, some of the best musicians on the planet. And you know, we played it I think we've played it a few years now. I haven't been for about 6 years, but it's a great band, getting the dance floor filled. But if you're not going to be at the gala dinner, go and get yourself an Insta hit in the taxi rank. I think we're doing that each day. All right. Yeah. Well, that's something to look forward to. Thanks again. We appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for everyone listening at home, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
An exciting day so far at IMEX Frankfurt.
Yes.
And we wanted to bring a little bit of behind-the-scenes action and make it a little meta. Yeah. We brought Garrett, who's on the digital team for IMEX.
Once again.
And if you haven't met Garrett yet, he's been on all the IMEX episodes, so you have to go check it out. With IMEX America, we had you, and then the IMEX America episode before that.
Yes.
So our first time.
Glad to be back at the event icons.
Well, you know, you're just so awesome. We couldn't resist.
Well, you said 17 years here.
No, not years, because there's 2 shows a year.
Oh, that's true. So it made you sound much cooler.
It's only my 9th year. Yeah. So there's Frankfurt and Vegas. This is actually the 17th show that I've had the privilege to be part of the IMEX social media team.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're trying to develop it while we go along. And to be honest, we've been trying. We had ideas like this live broadcasting from IMEX. Somehow we never pulled it off, so I'm really glad and happy you guys are here, connecting our audience from all over the world. Good morning, America, or if you're watching or listening this in recording.
Well,
Anytime
no,
zone.
but that's actually good. What are the hashtags they're supposed to be following? Because I know there's hashtag IMEX 19.
Yeah, 19. That's an interest. Well, we'll see if we get there. But obviously, the big theme is sustainability.
Right.
And one of the key things, I guess this is a social media people dilemma. Obviously, the hashtag kind of makes it a yearly kind of
True.
to-date kind of thing.
Totally.
But then one of the sustainable actions is don't put years in your materials.
That
Yeah.
is very
because
meta.
then
That's
you
true.
can reuse them. But anyway, hashtag for this year's shows, both in America and here in Frankfurt, is hashtag IMEX 19.
Awesome. And also, I'm Experience.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun tag to
the
it,
fun
obviously,
tag.
because now we're all Instagram people and you can throw in a ton of tags.
Ooh.
So I'm Experience is also
Awesome.
a nice one, kind of a pun on the IMEX thing.
I love it. So, what out of all the things that you've seen, what's been like the most interesting thing you've seen so far?
So far, and it's only day one, there's two big stories because that's what we're doing this year, right? We started way back in 2012, like live tweeting and all the fast stuff, and then we turned into more and more video. Last year we tried the 2 vlogs a day kind of experience, nearly killed me. So we kind of got back on that, and we're like, now, okay, so let's create a bunch of cool, quick video pieces.
Cool.
On the key stories. And the 2 stories of today is, first of all, we started this morning with a team from The Hague, the World Forum, which is a big conference venue or meeting venue in The Hague.
Yeah.
They cycled. I mean, talking about offsetting your carbon footprint, they just came to Frankfurt, which is a 500K, about a 350-mile.
Cycled in from the Netherlands?
They cycled in from the Netherlands all the way to
Wow.
Frankfurt. Took a full week for that.
Wow.
It was 5 of them. It's the 555. That makes it easy to remember. So it's 5, a team of 5, cycling 500 kilometers and collecting donations of 5,000 people for War Child.
Wow.
And they came in this morning and we captured that live, created a little video story out of that.
Awesome.
So that's out. And the other cool story I've just finished editing is that at the New Zealand stand, you can get a real Maori tattoo.
Wow.
What? I didn't know
Well,
that.
sounds like
Let's
a
go get
cool
to-
gadget, right? It was like, go
Yeah.
check it
But
out. And
isn't that-
there's the true Maori guy with all the tattoos in his face and on his arms and everywhere.
We should go get icons tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. No. Oh, I'll tell you about how this is done. There's an interesting story. But before we get to that, I was mostly surprised that people are lining up to do that. So I literally
That's what
captured
I like
live
for.
like this nice. Can I say old? Well, I hope she's not watching. Older, mature lady.
There you go.
Who's just getting this tattoo on her ankle. And the way he does it, and he explains it in the video, it's going to air tomorrow on all IMEX social media channels, so check it out.
We might have to show it here too.
Yeah, I can pitch it to you. So the way he explains it, in the Maori culture, he's going to have a chat with you. He's going to have a conversation kind of like we have here on air on what's keeping you busy, what's important to you. And then he says, the inspiration falls into me, and then I just start drawing on you. So like, there's no pre-agreed design. The only thing
You have no control.
Almost like I'm in it now. He's like,
yeah.
I don't
so
know.
No event icons logos. It's maybe
So
you
what I
can
have
tell
to
a story.
I just have to
about-
give him like
yeah.
some telekinetic powers. Like hopefully think of event icons.
Think about the logo. No, but it's beautiful. But then if you look at the end result, and now this is a teaser for the video, go check out the video. Because the lady was okay with being interviewed, and she explained what the drawing meant, and I was like choked up. I was like, okay, stop the interview right here.
Yeah.
This is enough.
So
yeah,
good.
that's powerful.
That's
Powerful.
amazing. Well, definitely, I think we're going to be showing some video content at the end of the day when we do our wrap up for the day and showing a couple of videos that you guys have been creating,
Sure.
which is awesome. I think the next, I'm just stealing all the questions away from
He's
you.
just a talker, you guys.
No, yeah, but
That's what-
we found the
This is what-
topic, right?
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
structure this interview a
I
bit,
love it.
because
I
we were
love-
just jumping on this show.
Well, I was
all
wondering.
3 online hosts.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I was wondering, for somebody who wants to do something similar to what you guys are doing.
Yes, that's what my question was going to be.
Okay,
Lindsay,
well,
what was your
Lindsay,
question?
what was your
No,
question?
my question is for someone who wants to do this, especially, I love that point. We did a vlog 2 times a day and it nearly killed me.
Yeah.
I hear from event people all the time, we really want to do all this video, but oh my God, I have all this other stuff.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you even get started?
Well,
One thing that helps
8
us-
years ago.
Prayers.
Let's start with
true.
that. No, yeah, but what's the best time to plant an apple tree? It's 10 years ago, right? If you want apples today. So that's a fair point to the IMEX team. They've been having the vision of the importance of creating social media content during the show, creating content for later throughout the year. And and to be honest, I think our IMEX digital team, and I think you might be airing that video, I think we are with like 10 people at the moment.
crazy.
And yeah, it's a big team. And then maybe we should add you guys to that team as well, right? Because you're also creating online content here. And then there's other people out there. And the relevance of it is, so there's basically one team who really focuses on the promotion of next year's show. So their sole purpose here is to create quotes and content to promote next year's show. And I love that. Because that's what you often miss, right? And we're all so focused on executing the event of this year.
Yes.
And once it's down the drain, it's like, oh, now we promote next year's one. Oh, we need footage of this or that. Oh, missed that in the briefing for the photographer or the camera guys. So that's one part of the group. Then we have 2 young, quick videographers who create, which I call like kind of the polished content. They're real videographers. And then there's Miguel and I, who are more like the video hackers.
And you're shooting it on your phones.
We shoot on the phones.
I think we talked about that
we try to edit on the phones as much as possible, because I think and we kind of got back from that after day one. That's another key tip. It's learning on the job, right? You try stuff, then you see stuff, it's like, let's tweak it. So we're editing, we're back to a little bit more editing, but still the key asset of Miguel and I is speed.
Right.
Because we need video content now, not next week. We're not going to send the after movie 2 weeks after the event.
Done is better than
Nobody
perfect.
cares. Exactly. So I guess you're asking key tips for people who want to get started with that. First of all, start building your experience. Sooner the better. Yes, this is going to cost you resources, because no resources, no content.
Exactly.
And then try to be smart about it. And if you don't have 10 resources, of course, you cannot sell that to your client or your board or whoever you're working for. Maybe you start with 1 or 2, but at least then make the division in your task between content, evergreen content for throughout the year or next year, stuff that is nice that you need for later on, and stuff that needs to go out quick. I think if you start thinking about it that way, you get an editorial plan that works for you.
Love it.
I think too, it helps too. I mean, you brought up the team, is that having a team surrounded by it too.
Yeah.
Like you have a mix of people who are making the content, people who are planning it out and kind of directing where you need to go. Because I think one of the problems too is where it's like, oh yeah, just get a video person, they'll figure it all out. But a lot of times they're like, give me direction, I need to know where I'm going.
What's the shot list?
Yeah, exactly. Because now I was just talking about the content production side, and then obviously we have Rosie in the team and Suzanne in the team who are actually also monitoring and responding to all the other people out there.
And that's important too. Suzanne was saying this morning that as Europe was waking up and everyone was arriving on site, she was trying to respond to each and every social media content. And as one would come in, she would respond to 18 more would show up. And so that speed piece, but also that authenticity piece, like you were talking about earlier with Alex, I think is very vital.
Yeah, and you need to figure out, because this is what we call a good old fire hose, right?
Right.
It's a nice intention to respond to all.
But is it always practical?
Yeah. And mentioning authenticity, yes, from experience, we know a lot of people really like. I recognize, that's so stupid. Even internally in the team, right? If you make a tweet and then the IMEX group account likes your tweet, you're kind of like, oh yes.
Ooh,
But now here's your authenticity point. If that's like an automated thing, like all of a sudden I notice if I tweet 10 times, I get 10 likes. Authenticity gone. It's like, oh, this is fake. There's just someone pushing all the like buttons. So that's that thin edge where social media, online communication needs to be.
It's true engagement versus commercialism.
But it's difficult because that's costing resources, right?
Exactly.
That's true. That's very true. Well, I think we're definitely going to be talking a lot more about the live stream content, things like that. I mean, I think a lot of people are curious how this is all happening. We kind of hinted at it, but we'll be doing how to produce your hybrid event.
How to produce an event.
How to produce an hybrid event.
Yeah.
Coming later today, so that'll be really exciting. I think that's coming up after our next set. I just want to make sure that we're doing okay on time before.
Sarah's like,
and you can't see Sarah, but Sarah has been back here making everything work all day long, and we couldn't do this without you.
Awesome. Okay, I think we got like a couple more minutes.
All right.
Unless we had, you're the schedule master.
Oh, am I? Some days I'm the schedule master. Well, I was wanting to ask Garrett actually. So you were saying that you and Miguel were shooting on your phones. What are you using to edit? Because everything's changing so fast. What's the pro tip?
Yeah, so the real pro tip, it's kind of, I know you want the tool, you get the tool, hold on. But the real pro tip is once you get some practice under the belt, you realize it's not about the tool, it's about what you do with it, right? Yeah. So if you have your storyline in mind, if you have some experience with the tool, at some point you, at least I, start thinking about, okay, I need like 3 establishing shots, I need a close-up of that, I need an ending shot, and if you shoot smart, then obviously the editing becomes really simple. It doesn't really matter which
you've
tool,
already
but I
built
tell you
the
the tools.
narrative in your
Exactly,
mind.
because you know what you need. And
Right.
that's what's costing the most time in the editing,
Yes.
is sorting out your material. And the less you shoot and the more spot on you are, the quicker the editing goes. Now, tools we use, obviously, I must say, this is commercial break. But anyway, so I'm shooting with the iPhone X. It's good. But now Miguel just walked in this week with the new iPhone. I don't even know what it's called, like
XS
the
or something.
XS or whatever, X
Yeah.
Super. The images on that thing, that is amazing. I
Crazy.
mean, I think this is competing with
It's crazy. Our,
professional
our
camera
phones
work.
look pretty
the
amazing.
colors. Anyway, so that's what the phones can do. Then we have some ancillaries to kind of stabilize and to be able to connect a wireless mic to it. So because in the end, it's audio, right? That really matters if you're talking to
Absolutely.
people. And then we edit either. Yesterday we started editing for the real simple work in Splice, which is a GoPro app that kind of, the only thing it basically allows you is to put things in a timeline. You can't do overloads, you can do anything. Another thing I love is also now bought by GoPro is the Quick app, which basically edits onto music. And what I like, it's a real thing you should start to experiment with. What I like, it's AI editing, and it's like auto-magically. Right, so especially if you know how the AI thing kind of thinks and what it ticks on,
Right.
and you film with that in mind. Like this morning, I created something in like 3.5 minutes, which was then, and I'll tell you how it worked. So I create like a 30 to 60 second piece on music, and that's then my baseline B-roll kind of thing that kind of gives it speed. And then I have like in this video, and it was the World Forum The Hague video, I had like 3 people sharing their story and their experience, and then I take it to the Mac, and I simply use iMovie, because the only thing I then need to do is kind of chop up my quotes and kind of mix it in with the video parts, and then it becomes really simple, really quick. And I'm not saying that there is obviously a place for professional video editing with Premiere and all the fancy stuff, but what I like by now, because of the simplicity of the tools, you start to think so much smarter about what you shoot and the limitations you have in editing.
Right.
That is the key gain of speed. Because all the opportunities just, oh, let's try that. Oh, let's fiddle with that. Oh, let's micro optimize this. And I'm like, no, dude, the Quick app gave me this transition. This is it. Can't change it.
Yeah.
So that's on the tools. Yeah.
Ooh, I love a good tool.
Yeah.
I love a good
Yeah.
tool. Where do you see the future of what you guys are going to do here for quick video content?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I've been struggling with that because the past was quite clear. We started with tweeting, it needed to be visual, it was photos with nice caption, tagging people. That's still a very good tactic, right? Tag the people in your event so they share it in their networks. It's kind of evergreen. Then we moved into live streaming because that was hot. So a couple of years we were walking around here, going on a permanent live stream, like with the phone already also, and just walking around chatting to people. And I think the fun bit about that was that it was unpredictable. Right,
Totally.
it took you into an event that you didn't know who
It was
were
always
going
the
to
most
run into.
interesting
Yeah,
things.
who you're going to run into.
Live
what's gonna
TV.
really live. But somehow, after a few years, maybe it was because we got bored with it, or it felt like it wasn't appropriate. And we saw the numbers drop, and we realized editorially that the transitions from one place to another got really boring. So then what we started to do is create live pieces, but chop them up, and then kind of made the best of the live videos. That's where we kind of are now. So we don't do the lives, but we just try to capture the best pieces of the lives at once. Where's that going? I'm not sure, Will. I'm not sure. I think in the end, at this point, you can do for a while with creating interesting video. What we try to improve on is see how you make it desirable to watch. And that's either because it's funny or snappy or you see a lot in a lot, or it's educational. For example, the World Forum The Hague thing is in 90 seconds, and it's speedy and it's dynamic. The New Zealand tattoo thing ended up being 3.5 minutes. So we're struggling with that. But then it's because 90 seconds of that, the Maori guy himself is really explaining what the tattoo culture means to him, how it works with not being able to design the thing, and I thought, yeah, but that's interesting, right?
Yeah,
Let's
totally.
keep it in, and I guess this is the kind of experience that you need to run, and then figure out what your audience is eating, right? Read the statistics, read the engagement, and then go on that. So sorry, no clear vision on the future there. A little bit more of this.
We're just going to
think.
keep doing it until you say it's not the right thing. And then probably he wants your ideas, right, Garrett?
Well, yeah, if you're watching or listening to this anywhere, make sure you drop your ideas or your best practices in the comments right now.
Hashtag IMEX19.
Yeah, or event icons. I
Or
should
event
say,
icons,
right?
yes.
It's very true. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Garrett, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm really enjoying it.
And I'm sure we'll see plenty of you. And make sure to go check out the IMEX Facebook page, which is where a lot of it's happening right now, right?
Facebook page, YouTube page, Instagram channels, Twitter even still.
Awesome.
Even still. Ooh. Yeah,
Everybody, we just dated ourselves right there with the faces.
And in MySpace. So go check it out and go check out the content and let us know what you think of it. And then we're going to debut a little bit of it at the end of the show. So make sure you stick around right until the very end where we talk about our day in recap. And hopefully you guys have been enjoying this recap of today's event so far.
Sounds good.
All right. Well,
See y'all soon. Today was so great. Thank you so much. Man, it was just awesome content, right?
Wow.
Fantastic.
Absolutely amazing content.
Absolutely.
3 days distilled down into a single episode of Event Icons. Like, just so much content.
Well, I think we should do this again.
I think so,
Should we do
too.
this again
I
sometime?
think maybe September.
May,
September.
September.
Maybe
September?
in Vegas? I
Maybe
think
in
that's
Vegas?
a nice
Vegas.
place to
Las
go.
I
Vegas.
do love
Vegas.
Vegas in September.
And
So-
I think
does.
we can call it IMEX America.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's got a
So,
nice ring.
In case you didn't figure it out, yes, we will be doing this again at IMEX America. We're really excited to be doing this again, having more speakers, more content, working on a lot of special surprises for that one as well. So we'll keep that under our hats for now.
And let us know what you want to see on
Yes.
that show, and we'll make
Or
sure
if
that
you're
it
going to
happens.
be there.
If you're going to be
Yes.
there, maybe you could be an event icon.
Or even just hang out and watch and throw things at us if you'd like.
Or that.
Tempting. Can I get in on that?
If you're an event icon, you can't throw things. You can only be thrown out, apparently.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank all of our speakers and friends that have joined us on the show over these last few days. It's absolutely amazing time. We look forward to seeing you at IMEX America. We look forward to seeing all of you every week, 5 p.m. Eastern on Event Icons. Use hashtag Event Icons to let us know what you thought about the show. Join us every week at event-icons.com. That's where you can see all the show notes and all the clips and all of the wonderful resources that we have on a week-to-week basis. A lot of good shows scheduled between now and September. So don't forget about those week-to-week shows, and be sure and subscribe. iTunes, Pocket Casts, whatever your podcatcher of choice is. Anything else? Anyone want to throw anything else out? Otherwise, I'm just going to say it's time to be done and make it go.
I think you got this.
we're good.
Brent.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of Hashtag Event Icons. To catch all the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups, head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway. Just tag your post with hashtag Event Icons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on Hashtag Event Icons.